Hello, everyone. Welcome. I hope you're having a great Thursday so far. I hope it's starting to feel like spring wherever you are. Feels like it was a long winter. I'll take a couple seconds to let everyone get settled. You can turn your cameras on or off. Today is going to be an open forum, so it's really more collaborative. You can use the chat. I know some of you are working, so you might not be able to unmute yourself and talk, but we do encourage you to use the chat. We read everything out loud so everyone can feel involved. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome. We host these town halls every single Thursday throughout the school year from 1:30 to 2:30 p.m. Eastern on Zoom. They're always free to join. We just feel it's important for school leaders to have a space to come together and discuss different strategies, ideas, and topics. Oftentimes when you're at the top, you can't really talk to your staff. They're leaning on you. So it's great to have a community of leaders and see how other school leaders are doing in the Montessori space. This week, we're going to talk about engaging Montessori families. This is kind of based off of last week's topic, which was focused on retention, because we all know that when your families are more engaged, they're more likely to stay in your community for longer. But we wanted to focus this meeting more on just some strategies on how schools can really make sure that their families are more involved in school life, are actually, reading the information you're sending out, are on top of things, are aware and up to date with what's going on in the school, and know what the school expects of them. So we'll go ahead and start with a little brief overview. We'll start with a brief getting to know each other. We'll talk a little bit about setting expectations in your community from your to your parent community. We'll discuss and exchange some engagement strategies, so some creative approaches that you can take as a school in order to get parents more engaged with school life. We'll talk about nurturing parent ambassadors, because ultimately the key to getting parents more involved in your community is to find parent leaders to inspire one another. And then we'll share some resources. We'll also have some time for Q&A and discussion. Remember, this is an open forum, so it's all about what you guys have to say, especially as you all are the ones who are on the grounds right now dealing with parents. And parent communities are ever changing and ever evolving. Their needs are different, their schedules are different. I think every generation of parents have their unique approaches to things. So let's go ahead and get started with a little introduction. You can unmute yourself or you can comment in the chat. We'd love to know what school you're joining us from, what city you're located, and why you joined today's call. Is engagement a challenge you're looking to overcome? Are you looking for new ideas? Are you here to share what's worked in your community? I'll pause a little bit so we can get to know one another. The Rachel Montessori School of Louisville in Kentucky, looking for ways for parents to read what we put out.
Yeah, I'm Katie Toffee. I'm from Community Montessori School in Lexington, Kentucky. And I just curious to see what works for other schools and other families, because it's kind of a constant evolving challenge that we all face.
Definitely. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kristen Mark. I'm here in Chicago at Rogers Park Montessori School. And I have only recently shifted into the admissions office. And it does seem to be sort of an evergreen problem. I feel like, parents often say they want opportunities, and then when push comes to shove, we don't get great attendance. So I'm just curious about sort of different approaches.
Thank you, Kristen. Here in the chat, Elizabeth, welcome back, Elizabeth. Joining us from Pittsburgh. Namita joining us from Cosmic Montessori in Aurora, Illinois. Brianna joining us from Sugarland. Curious to see what works for other schools. Okay, great. Well, hopefully you take away some new ideas and strategies, and please feel free to share. We'll have points in the presentation to pause for discussion. So feel free to share your thoughts, comments, add-ons to whatever ideas and strategies we're going to share in today's meeting. All right, so first things first, when it comes to getting your parent community more engaged is setting expectations. And you can do this from early on. But if you really want families to feel like they should engage in your community, it's important to set those expectations and make it very known what kind of resources you offer, what you expect from parents, what you expect them to show up to. And that by joining your community, they are joining a Montessori school and parent partnership. It's not just a place where they can drop off their children, pick them up after their 9 to 5 or whatever schedules for them, and then just, carry on about their lives. It's a very much an involvement. You're working together to build a great educational foundation for the child. And ultimately, it's in the best interest of the child for the parents to truly partner with the school. So it's important to make this known. A great way to do this is to have parents sign a parent commitment form. If you're looking for one, we had a school contribute one to our Thrive collection, and it's really good. It's just a one-page document that just clearly outlines why you expect parents to be engaged in your community, and that the parent is signing to agree to the terms, basically saying, I understand that this is a partnership and I am expected to come to the parenting courses and to use the resources that your school offers, whether that's a blog or parenting resources, or maybe a parenting book list, whatever it may be. You can have a parent sign this. Obviously, it's not necessarily a binding contract, but it's just a proof that they have acknowledged that this is a partnership between school and parent. Also, if you find that you're having a couple of difficulty, a bit of difficulty with certain parents, you can always, check in with them and be like, oh, we really encourage our families to be more engaged. Every parent signed a commitment form, including yourself. We really think that you're missing out on so much by not coming to our courses and things like this. Is there a way we can help make them more accessible? But it's good to have this document that you've had them sign from the beginning. You can make this part of your admissions and enrollment process, and you can just talk them through why you have families sign a document like this. Does anyone have anything like this in their community? Maybe not exactly, but I'm seeing some no's. It has worked for the school that contributed this. I think, Camille, you said Hollis has something like this as well.
Yeah, we had I'm trying to remember what we called it. I think just a partnership agreement, we called it. And it was just kind of lays out, this is what you can expect from the school, and this is what the school expects from you. And it had things in it like, we expect you to come in and observe at least once a year to see your child in the classroom. We expect you to read our weekly newsletters and kind of stay on top of things. Now, like Camilla said, it's not really guaranteeing, obviously, that they're going to do that, but it is something that if you have a parent that's really disengaged, you can kind of refer back to it and say, hey, we laid this out. This is kind of what we expect. You signed this when you enrolled your child. So it just kind of gives you a little bit of backbone, I guess, something in writing that you can, say to the parent, let's read through this again, and so that we're both on the same page again. So that's what we did. It's not anything that can be binding. A parent should want to be involved, but we all know that that's not always the case, and lives get busy. So yeah, that's what we did.
Yeah, it helps to have just something that they have to sign and acknowledge. But yeah, that's one idea. You can also have some detailed information about parent expectations in your parent handbook. You can even have a copy of the parent agreement or partnership agreement in the parent handbook, just to reference. You can bring this up in parent meetings if it ever becomes an issue. But you can also outline a bunch of information about how parents can be involved in the school and what's expected. You can include things like volunteer opportunities for parents who really, want to step into school life, all of the parent education resources, events, blogs that you offer, what parents should be prepared for, whether it's an annual fundraiser, maybe you have 2 big events a year and all parents are expected to go. You can lay all this out in the parent handbook. Things like observations, I really recommend having a thorough section about why observations are so important for parents to come into. Whether you have them annually or once a semester, you can explain why you have them and why they're absolutely mandatory for all parents. So all of this is important to include in your handbook. Also, where parents can go for communication, whether maybe you use like a Remind 101, a Bright Wheel, any type of thing like that. You can lay all of this out in the parent handbook. This just avoids all of the questions. And you can really turn your parent handbook into just a tool that parents can use throughout their time with you, so they can always reference it if they have questions. Yeah, it would be better if they go to the book and then go rather than go to you for every single question about a day off or an event or something like that. And also just a page about parent conduct, because really engaged parents should also know how to carry themselves in your community. So what will be allowed, what won't be allowed, what you expect of your parent community in terms of behavior and how they treat teachers, other parents, and how they talk in the school and about the school. So all of this is helpful. It's important to have this verbiage in your parent handbook. I'd love to hear any other strategies for just how you prepare families to get engaged. Do you make this clear during tours? Do you set the tone maybe at open houses? Do you explain this as soon as a parent enrolls, what's expected of them? You can unmute yourself or use the chat. We'd love to know your tips for just how you set those expectations.
So this is Katie in Kentucky. We do some of it with our tours, especially when you get an engaged parent that's really kind of asking a lot of questions in the tour process. We do have kind of our expectations of our parents. That's part of our enrollment contract, because have always relied heavily on our parents to be part of what we do here. I think probably for a lot of schools, everything really changed in COVID. So it's how do you rework everything now that we're all kind of coming out of that. We really try to lay that expectation, especially in our parent meeting at the beginning of the school year, to really talk about like what you were saying, that it is a partnership, and your involvement here ultimately helps your child. And through communication, we continually encourage observations and encourage involvement in different ways. I just think you just have to kind of look at your parent makeup and see like what do they really respond to versus what they don't respond to, right? And where do we really need their involvement, but how do you engage them in that way? So it's like they might sign up for a parent volunteer workday on our 13-acre campus, but aren't going to show up for the study group, the parent education night, which we really need to get them for the parent education night. So it's just kind of, we try to continually communicate as best we can. But it's a hard piece to figure out.
Yeah, great points, Katie. I see Rupali has her hand raised. Do you have anything to add, Rupali?
Yeah, I wanted to say that, at our school, we do back to school night at the beginning of the year when we go over these items. And then we also have every month we have a family alliance meeting where we bring, certain aspects of the handbook in the meeting so that parents kind of are in touch and they know what is going on. The other thing is that parents also get regular communication from us on a weekly basis. So that's another way to stay engaged. So those are 3 things I wanted to share. Thank you.
All great. Thank you, Rupali. Anything else in terms of, just preparing your families?
I had one question for Rupali in terms of the monthly. Did you say a monthly meeting, Rupali? Rupali? Oh, she's not okay. Anyways, I was wondering if she meant the entire school parent meeting or by class or what, because it's hard to get the entire parent community to be together once a month. And that seems like a massive undertaking. I'm not sure how it works for her. Anyway, that's where my question was.
I agree. That seems like a lot to me too, from what I remember. I remember we used to try to do maybe 3 in a year, in a school year. And then I think we realized that anytime kind of after February didn't really work too well either, because parents for some reason are just kind of like, they're more enthusiastic and engaged at the beginning of the school year, and then it kind of fades. So we always would try to get the important parent evening, like education evenings, done by February or so that we got them in when they were still willing to attend.
Camille, the only thing is that I think to have a school-wide meeting, you have to have a facility, I mean, like a big hall to be able to accommodate everybody. I mean, not many schools have that.
Yeah, I mean, you could maybe host a virtual one on Zoom, maybe nowadays. People are more used to it if you don't. But yeah, I guess frequency would be something that you'd have to see what your community is comfortable with and what they'll show up to.
Mm-hmm.
What we found works the best in terms of parent engagement, I mean, outside the education night and things like that, but like for social events, either you have to have a PTA leader who is really very involved and takes upon herself or himself to organize various events, or somebody in the administration who's almost kind of, I would say, it could be a marketing and community development role where they do the work. I think we have had situations where we had some PTA member, I mean, president, who was extremely active and organized lots of events and had good reception. In other cases where we had PTA presidents or PTA board members who basically did not do a whole lot, and all of a sudden you see very little activity. So to me, I think unless you have somebody like that who's carrying the torch, I think the parents will respond. I mean, again, maybe not as much as you would like, but it's still at least you'll have good reception.
Yeah, it's important to scope out the parent, a good parent leader, but it's tricky sometimes because you won't always find the right person, and it's always sad when you have such a great parent leader and then they move on to the next school, and it's tricky.
I mean, unfortunately, ours have been up and down. I mean, there's a couple of years, very good ones, then kind of is like a feast and famine thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there is, what we do is we try to essentially engage them for 2 years and then try to maybe get another one out of the PTA membership, maybe try to locate somebody else, encourage them to join that. So it gives us 2 years to do that, but it's not always easy to find people that really would take it seriously.
Yeah, and you won't always have that type of parent every year, unfortunately. In a perfect world, maybe. All right, let's look at some strategies. Just some ideas, some approaches that your school can take in order to improve and increase engagement. You don't have to utilize all of these, but these are just some ideas. Some may work in some communities, some may not. And ultimately, you can kind of gauge what will work within your school community. So first and foremost, this one's easy. Post your calendar online or make it easily accessible. It's great to have it directly on your website because you can update this easily every year because obviously your events are going to fall on different dates. But oftentimes parents are just really forgetful because they have so many other important dates to worry about. It's important to really highlight important dates on your school calendar online, because this way they can access it and they know that they can always go to your website to check for these things. Also, when they're on your website, they can go to your blog, they can lurk around. So it's great to just have something that is valuable to them. Now, and it's even great because a parent might be able to go in there and download it and print it and put it on their fridge. But I think it's great to have it on your website because a parent can always go on their phone. I mean, how often do we get questions like parents who are surprised last minute that we have an in-service day? And it's like, you know where to go. It should be on your, here on the website. These are all of our dates so that you can prepare, way ahead of time, exactly, what days we have off, what events we have, so you can prepare what nights you're expected to come in for parenting events. It's just good to have this easily accessible, especially if you want parents to show up on these important dates. It doesn't mean every parent is going to always check it. No, in a perfect world, maybe. Another thing, and I think this is similar to what Rupali was mentioning about parent orientation, but hosting an orientation meeting for new parents is great, and hosting one every single, even depending on what age groups and programs, maybe even every semester, because you have a lot of parents who join you maybe starting out in January. But it's great to have an orientation for new parents. This is where you can set those expectations. You can make it very clear. You can say the most important events for all families are the observation and the parent education nights. And you can say the reason why is because, your child will benefit so much more if they're receiving the same messaging as you as a parent. It all comes together when the school and home can work in harmony. You can talk about this. You can talk about the benefits. You can describe different levels of involvement. Not every parent is going to volunteer all the time, but you can set this out if you do wish to. This is how you can contribute. And if really ultimately your goal is to get parents to show up for more parent education night, or to at least read your blogs and newsletters and resources, you can make this very clear. You can say, these are valuable parenting resources and they're quick and easy. And all of our parenting courses are a part of the education that you're paying for. We're providing this as a service for you, and, you're really missing out by not coming. The parents who have come to our parenting courses or our parent education nights have really thrived in our community so much more. So that's why we encourage it so highly. So by setting these expectations during the parent orientation, it can really help you set the tone. And you can even encourage it for every time that a parent, maybe they're still in your community, but they move up a program. You can refresh them. You can say, parent orientation for new primary parents who are entering the primary space, or lower elementary parents, because obviously I think there's different levels of involvement that you expect. But it's good to have events like this. Another one is a welcome event. This one's a little bit more social. So it's a little bit less of you just telling them everything they actually need to know about the school and the school function. This can be something fun, like a potluck or a gathering that allows families to really socialize and get to know one another, the staff. This really helps to build community, and people are much more involved in school life when they feel like they're a part of a wider community. If they have other parent friends, they're more likely to say, are you going to the parenting class? Are you going to the volunteer event? How are you gonna help out with the fundraiser this year? So just by creating that kind of space where parents can connect with one another, you're helping your engagement because you're creating a sense of community. We talked about this last week, but it also helps with retention when you do things like this, because again, one of the things that is valuable about your Montessori school is a sense of community. All of the families have one thing in common. They want the best for their child. And that's why they chose Montessori. So right off the bat, they already have a lot to talk about, and they can connect. And find a safe space together in your school. There's lots of ways you can host this. It's nice as well when you invite just all of your families, whether they're new or current, because the current families, they can say, oh my gosh, you're going to see such a difference. Like, I'm so excited for you to start this journey. They can answer new parent questions. You can even have some parent ambassadors. So maybe parents who have been highly involved in your community, maybe even past alumni come in and say, wow, this is, such a great space for you to be in. Take advantage of all the parenting resources, make sure, you make the most of this time because it flies by. So it's great to kind of just throw them into the community and get them socializing. I think especially after COVID, this is valuable now that we're starting to get into a space where people are more comfortable interacting socially. They crave that sense of community. There are a lot of, COVID babies who are going to be entering the school, who have already entered the school. And it just kind of gives those parents a space to connect. Thank involved parents. I think this one just goes without saying. It's great whenever you do acknowledge parents that do participate in events. And this can be something like a simple thank you. Obviously, we have those parents who go above and beyond. These are, the PTA leaders who organize so much, who go above and beyond. You can write them a thank you letter. You can even spotlight them. Maybe you have a newsletter and you can just say, we'd like to give a special shout out to an amazing parent volunteer who helped us organize so many events and has done so much for our fundraiser. All of these things kind of make other parents maybe a little bit more aspirational about how they can contribute to your community. Obviously, some parents are not going to necessarily want to be as involved as others, but I think it's great for them to have someone to look up to as kind of like a star community member. And it's always important to recognize those families who volunteer and attend parenting classes and school events. You can say, I see you. It really, I can tell, I can see such a difference when families do show up for the parenting events. The child can feel a difference in our classrooms. And we can always tell which parents, the parents who are really making the most of their time and experience here at the school. So you can say it, I don't think it's rude to acknowledge, hey, you've gone above and beyond, you've done everything, you've really held up your part of the agreement. So you can always recognize those families. On the other hand, you can also gently nudge under-involved parents. Obviously, it's important to be a little bit careful because you never know what's going on in someone's personal life. Maybe they have a lot on their plate. Not everyone has, a nuclear family. Some people have different levels of stress. But if a parent is really struggling and you can tell that they're just not involved, their child is even struggling to adapt, and maybe you need to have a meeting, it's important to give them a nice gentle nudge. You can check in with them. You can ask, how are you doing? Do you need any help? You can send out reminders. You can also follow up with families who don't come to events or parenting classes. So for instance, if you put a lot of work and effort into organizing a parenting class, and you notice that parents who really should be there aren't there, you can send them a personalized email and be like, oh, I noticed that you weren't at the parenting session. Maybe you're busy, that's okay. I just wanted to send you all of the resources that we covered and all the information, just so that you can still have it on your own time. We know everyone is busy, but I didn't want you to miss out just because you couldn't come to the event. This, it helps. They see that, oh, wow, my absence was noticed and felt, and I still got the resources. So maybe I'll look through them. Maybe they are worthwhile. And maybe I should probably show up to the next one so I don't get another email nudging me to come. And you can do it in a gentle way. And you can still provide those resources that you work so hard on. And you can also ask these parents how you can help. Maybe they just don't have the time to come into the school. And maybe, you need to make your resources more accessible, whether that's posting them online, recording your parenting sessions, finding new ways to make these resources accessible to parents. So you can always ask them that. You can say, oh, we understand that all parents are very busy. Does this fall during a busy time? Would it be helpful if, maybe we opened up one of the classrooms for people to come drop off their children while they come for the parenting courses? What can we do to work with you so that we can make these resources accessible to you? So it's okay to give them a nudge, check in with them, and just ask, what can we do so that you can participate in these meetings and get these resources. Are there any other ideas for nudging parents? It's always a hard one because you don't want to be pushy and you don't want to make anyone feel bad, but also you want them to come to your parenting nights, or you want them to read your content.
One of our primary teachers, a lot of times if we're doing something that's more primary focused for an education night, she will talk it up to the kids, and then they'll make like little bracelets that they'll wear home, and she gets the children all excited and motivated, like, you should have your parent come, make sure that they come. And it's just funny because that's like kind of like her approach on how to do that. But it's, years back, we actually used to make phone calls to every family ahead of time. I think one time is like, resources are really stretched and strained. So, it's like, you feel like you shouldn't have to make that kind of an effort, but, we would call before our parent meetings to say, we really hope that we see you there. This is an important part of what we do. And I would love to not have to do that, but I understand kind of if we want to increase our involvement in those areas, probably things that we need to go back to doing.
Yeah, definitely. And it's time consuming. It's time consuming to do that and call up every parent. And yeah, I like the getting the kids to to nudge their parents. That's a good approach.
Something that we did just today, we have a parent association event next Thursday, and we weren't really getting very many RSVPs to it. And so we bought a bunch of single stem carnations and attached a little note to it just saying, oh, I hope, just a reminder, we hope to see you next week. And so we were handing them out in Carline this morning, and, handed one to a mom, and the little boy said, oh, why did you get that? And she said, because they're kind. And I thought, well, that's it. It doesn't have to be like, we want you here. We want you to be a part of it. We really do hope she comes next week. But for them to know that we're here for them is sort of half the battle, right?
Yeah, and adds an extra layer of consideration. It's really nice. All right. Well, there's plenty of kind and gentle ways you can nudge these parents, and you can just say, we really want you to make the most of your experience here. We're offering these resources because we know it makes a difference, and it's for the betterment of all of our children here. So, kind of rolling off of that is just making your events and resources accessible. This is a huge thing, especially now for busy parents. Most households, they have two working parents. Like, it's just a reality. Both parents are working 9 to 5. It's hard to juggle everything, plus having kids, plus staying involved in school life, plus feeling like, you have the emotional capacity to do so many things. So it's hard. So just by making your resources more accessible, you're helping facilitate more engagement. You can do this by hosting parenting events virtually, just offering that option. Maybe during like a parent association meeting, you can see, is it worth it having a Zoom option as well as an in-person option? What should we do? And you can kind of leave it up to the parents to see what works best for them. I know most schools already do this, but having any kind of parenting class or parenting sessions after working hours is really helpful. Obviously, all parents have different working schedules. Not everybody works a 9 to 5, but it's helpful to do this. You can also share different types of resources, whether that's handouts. You can utilize your parent handbook to have an entire section based off parent resources that they can always go back to. And you can reference it when you have these parent meetings. Maybe you're having a specific challenge with a child, and you can say, we have a whole section of books, resources, links, articles in our parent handbook about tantrums that will be really helpful and how we handle them in the classroom. And maybe if you have the similar messaging at home, we can work together to make sure, we get past these difficulties and your child can thrive. So when you have all these different resource options, you know, maybe those parents who are busy for certain things can still be consuming all these things that you're offering, whether it's a blog or article, etc. You can also have a dedicated section on your school website to parenting resources. Maybe these are videos, maybe these are slide decks that you've used in your classes. Maybe they're just articles, blogs, podcasts that you have found great. There are so many good podcasts in the Montessori space, and these are great for parents who are too busy to read. They can just listen to it on the grocery store, when they're running errands, when they're on their way to carpool. So just offering, you know, different types of media can really be helpful, because, you know, a parent isn't necessarily going to consume everything, but maybe just one thing, and that can make a difference. Another thing is to utilize as many platforms as possible. Nowadays, we're lucky that we, you know, have so many different ways to communicate with parents easily. Again, parents won't read or check everything, but they might check one thing. So maybe you just have a mom who, you know, she might not read the email, she might not open up every text, but she might just be on Instagram a lot because she wants to connect with her family and she sees your posts. So encourage, you know, people at your school to be posting on social media, resharing blogs, school updates. I don't think schools have a social media team, but luckily it's very easy to post on social media. It usually takes about a couple minutes to put together a post. You can even schedule things ahead of time, which makes things a little bit more manageable sometimes. Sending newsletters, again, most schools already do this, but you know, not every parent is going to open up the newsletter and read it, but putting it out there and being consistent with it is helpful. Creating Facebook events as well, because parents, they can follow your school page and they'll get notified every time you create an event. So maybe you have a parenting night. It's just an extra way to remind parents, like, oh, we have an upcoming event that you might be interested in. And it's just information about your parenting class, whether they can join on Zoom or in person. And it's free to do. It takes about 5 minutes to set up a Facebook event. You can also use Remind 101 and other classroom management tools just to send reminders. Some parents need a lot of reminders. And this is just because, you know, they're getting a lot of different information from work, from, you know, school, from all kinds of things. So it just helps to send out those reminders, even, you know, the night before, the day before. Things like this can help, because parents sometimes are literally, you know, they live like day to day to day. So yeah, just being as accessible as possible, and also utilizing your website. So having a dedicated section, like I mentioned in the last slide, that's another platform that's free for you to post on, you own, and parents can always access easily. You can really make your website a great tool that will help parents just stay up to date with what's going on in the school. And that saves you time. They won't have to reach out to you every time they have a question about an event or something like that. Post content regularly. And what I mean by this is just kind of create a schedule that works for you and be consistent with posting, whether it's a blog, whether it's your newsletters. It helps when parents know that you're always, you know, sharing information that might be helpful, giving information about school life. They know that they can go and check it out. Does this mean they're going to do it every day? No, but it doesn't hurt. You can create a consistent blog schedule. We've talked about the importance of blogs at so many of our town halls because we feel really passionately about it. It helps with so many different things, whether it's retention, parent education, marketing. It helps with it. You can also repurpose the content, but creating a consistent blog schedule can help. So maybe parents get used to reading a blog. Maybe it's once a week, maybe it's once every other week, maybe it's once a month, but you can create a schedule that works for you. Posting on your socials as well. And sending out your newsletter regularly, whether that's, you know, the first Monday of every month, or just so that parents know, you know, oh, usually today is around the time I get the newsletter. So I'm going to go check my emails and see what updates I need to see. So that helps. Finding a balance is also important, especially with how busy parents are today. It's important not to overwhelm families too much. So you can provide these resources, but be selective with what you prioritize. And you can lay this out when you're setting those expectations early on. You can say, you know, we have so many different ways for families to get involved, but the number one thing that's the most important for all parents is the mandatory observation and the parenting nights. These should really be prioritized. If you can come, please try. We really think that there's so much value here. And if you have the capacity to volunteer, to join the community, we welcome you with open arms. But we understand if, you know, you're overwhelmed and you have limits at this time. But please make an effort for these really important events, because we feel that this is truly for the betterment of your child's experience here. It's important to be purposeful with all your events, you know, be selective. Even what Camille mentioned earlier about, you know, what time of year are parents more likely to come to events? Are they going to be super likely to come during, you know, late April or May? Probably not. They're checked out at that point. They're thinking about their summer plans, what they're going to do then. So, you know, they have a lot on their plate. But maybe they're more engaged in October. Their child has just finished, you know, their first month. They're really diving into the Montessori philosophy. They want to learn more. These are the ideal dates. Maybe it's different in your community, but you can decide that. Space events out throughout the year as well. You don't want to have too much at once. And again, just be a little bit picky about, you know, what events you really are making a big deal about parents coming to. And then again, try to pick times that are not stressful to families. Again, not near the holidays. Those are usually just overwhelming times for parents. They have a lot on their plate. It's not the best to ask them, you know, to come to a parenting course when they have to do, you know, holiday shopping and taking care of, you know, all their kids and friends and play dates and stuff. So, you know, just try to be strategic with how you plan things. It helps to find a balance. Being creative. We had some great ideas earlier with the carnations, with getting the children to give parent reminders, but there's always new approaches you can take when it comes to reminding families about important events. Things like handouts always work. I know a lot of schools are going like paperless, but you can still do maybe fun things, maybe just attach a little quick note to a child's take-home folder, things like this. It's a small thing that you can do. I know schools already do this for the most part. T-shirts, we had a town hall a while back that every time there was a parenting night at Carpool, they had all their staffs put on like a really brightly colored T-shirt that just said like reminder, you know, parenting night, or ask me about, you know, what, you know, the event that we're hosting tonight, any questions. And that way the parent just sees that final reminder that, oh, yep, I need to come tonight. At this point, they should already know to do this, but it's just good to have that reminder, because you never know what parents like, oh my gosh, it's today. You're right. I need to come. So I'm going to see how I can make it work. So these are just fun little reminders, and you can reuse the T-shirts every year. And then parents who return, they know, oh, when I see the neon yellow T-shirts, it's a parenting night. Carpool shout outs, again, you can do fun things during carpool to just remind parents, you know, tonight we have an important event. Are you coming? Can we expect you there? We'd love to see you there. If not, you know, if you RSVP, no, we'll send you a recording and all the resources, but really you make so much more of it when you come in person. Having a community board or something that, you know, parents can check. I know our school that I worked at in Houston, they had like a big banner, and anytime there was a special event, they would bring that out and put it front and center in front of the carpool line just to get that last reminder. And usually we would put things out like the week of. So maybe we had an event on Thursday night, but we would have it out Monday and be like, remember, this week is parenting week, or we have a parenting night on Thursday. Things like that, just to give the last reminder, because, you know, oftentimes parents are just forgetful. Also, investing in your community can be helpful. We mentioned this again with like things like the potluck, but parents can really can feel more inspired to be more highly involved in the community when they see other parents are. And you can just create opportunities for this. Of course, there's going to be different levels of engagement amongst parents. Like some parents are going to be all in and they're going to really want that community. They're going to want that support. They want to be involved. And then there's parents who may not have the capacity for it. But it's good to have those options, and you can put a parent in charge of organizing this so that you don't have to do it, because I'm sure everyone here has enough on their plate. But things like organizing book clubs, creating Facebook groups. It's easy to create a Facebook group, and you can have either a teacher monitor it, or maybe a trusted parent monitor the Facebook group and post about events and post resources. And this is just kind of another way for parents to be involved. If maybe a parent is posting a blog on a Facebook group based on your school, being like, wow, this blog is so helpful. If you guys haven't read it, read it. It just kind of reinforces that it has helped someone in the community. And yeah, plan parent socials throughout the year. Again, you don't have to do many, maybe one a semester is fine, whether that's the welcome potluck, or maybe some type of like coffee meetup, where parents can come together, ask each other questions, and just chat and get to know one another. It doesn't have to be about parent education necessarily, but creating these spaces is always fun. And yeah, when parents get to know other parents in the community, they'll want to be more involved. Scoping out those parent leaders. I think, in the school leadership space, this is really important because we can't do everything. We have, staff to look after, we have students to look after. We can't be, looking after every single parent. So it's great to find those people that you see, okay, this is a special parent. They're really involved. They're really living our mission, and they have the time and capacity to help me inspire other parents to do so. So these are going to be your leaders. Ask them to lead the community, ask them to be involved in planning events, starting chats on your groups or open forums, involve them in the formal planning of events, and offer volunteer opportunities. This will just, hopefully help take some of the work off your plate, because you can't focus all your time and energy on this. And going off that, you can organize a formal parent committee if you don't already have one at your school. This is a great way to just get parents a little bit more engaged and to inspire other parents to get engaged. You can offer several different official parent committee roles. You can have them plan and organize these socials, encourage them to get more involved in the community. And just remember, a stronger parent community is really going to lead to a stronger school. It all comes back to you in form of retention, families living your mission, nurturing Montessori ambassadors and Montessorians for life. So it's all worth it. Well, I'd love to discuss some other ideas before we head out. What's worked for your community? What isn't working? I'll leave it on this, and then I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen so we can just chat. But even with all your efforts, it's important to recognize that some families will always be difficult to reach, but that's not necessarily a failure on your part. If you feel that really the majority of your community is engaged, that's really a win worth celebrating. Especially now, it's difficult with working parents. It's it's a challenge. So not every parent is going to be 100% on board. I'll go ahead and stop sharing. And yeah, we can discuss. I see here in the chat, Rachel, I love when parents blame us for just the right amount of information given, and they blame us for multiple children in multiple schools. It's too much information. Just had to put that out there. You can vent here. It's a safe space. Yes.
I'm sorry.
Mhm.
I have a question for the group. Over the last few weeks, I've been hearing a lot of people talking about parent agreements where they have requirements for events that parents have to attend, so either 2 of the 3 parent ed nights or something like that. I just wondered if anybody here has done that, if they started that way, or if they introduced it after not having it that way, and how they felt about it.
Hi, this is Kristen. We talk about this every year. And so I really like how we started this meeting, which was a kind of like the partnership agreement, or sort of really almost like giving them a menu and then saying it's not like if, but like which ones, which, how do you want to engage? But I think, so we always ask, like, could they use their volunteer hours to attend like a parent educational event? And in the end, every single year we talk about it and then we decide not to do it. So I'd be so curious if anybody on this call actually does do it that way and if it's successful.
And there you have it.
We have had a situation where we basically put in, okay, you're required to put in 10 hours annually towards attending the parent sessions or social events and all that. But then the problem is that we just did not have the bandwidth to follow up. Who did, who didn't,
Right.
and just gave up. So, I mean, it was something that put out, but never followed up.
Thanks, I appreciate that. We're the parent agreement, we are, feel good and confident about just expectations, but putting in requirements, we feel a little edgy about it for all those reasons. One, we don't want people to feel like it's this extra demand, even though it's what we want. And two, what happens when we can't follow up with that, or what happens if they don't, so.
Personally, I'm not a fan of parent agreement. I think it's all good to have it, but I'm not sure if really. I think someone mentioned here that maybe they had some good results, but I'm fairly skeptical about it. I think generally, if you're lucky enough to be able to enroll the right kind of parents who are looking for holistic education for the children, you have a much better chance of those parents participating.
For sure.
But also there is another group of parents, basically they're looking at the school as a daycare.
Yeah.
And we have many of them. So no matter what you tell them, what you say, I mean, it just would not resonate to them, period. So, and very few schools are lucky enough to have only the right kind of parents that should be in a Montessori program. I mean, that luxury most schools don't have.
I would say that we have the best attendance when two things happen: when we provide childcare on site, and if it's anything that involves their child. So like a parent-child morning or observations, things like that. It's the other things, any kind of parent ed event where we have the lowest enrollment or attendance.
I'm Rupali. I just wanted to second that. We had a poetry recital and a spring tea today and 100% attendance, right? Having the Zoom option has helped our parents. So we had an information night about our older students going off-site for 3 days for an overnight trip. And everybody attended on Zoom, and the teachers didn't have to stay back at school either. So that was a win-win for all. I have a question for the group. Before COVID, we had a lot of word of mouth kind of leads that came, and most of our enrollment was based on word of mouth. And during COVID, we noticed that word of mouth has decreased. And I'm wondering, is that a pattern that other heads of schools are seeing? And what can be done? Thank you.
We really haven't noticed that per se. Maybe it's a little bit too early to figure that. We still get a fair amount of word of mouth. But I have to go back like 3 or 4 years ago to see what it was. But I really have not noticed much in terms of that happening. I think people who are there in the school, who they like it, they still basically, I mean, quite often we have this thing, how did you find out about the school, right? In terms of the application form. And we get quite a few that says, okay, either the, so-and-so mentioned or this or that, we get quite a few of those. But I don't have a specific data that I could share with you to say, okay, has it really gone up or stayed the same and all that. We really have not really looked at, done that analysis yet.
I don't think ours has gone down too much in terms of word of mouth. I think the biggest difference is that like the market is like completely saturated. So parents in our area just have so many choices, and that has dramatically changed in the last 3 to 5 years.
My thought is maybe it's just a lack of socialization. I don't think that people have really quite gotten to pre-pandemic socialization levels yet. Maybe it will get easier with time, and maybe, utilize as many platforms as you can that are online in the meantime, because people, that's where they've gotten comfortable in the last few years a little bit more. They've had to be more comfortable online. So maybe utilizing your website more, social platforms. But yeah, it's a challenge. People aren't in the same type of socializing mindset as they once were.
How big is your school? How many students do you have? Anyway, okay. The reason I was asking is because I think it does make a difference. Referral and all that. If you have a small school, you can see more of a referral, this thing. But if you have a bigger school, that tends to not be that significant at any point in time. So it's a function of the size of the school too, in some cases.
We have a comment here, Rachel. We have not seen a decrease in word of mouth referrals. We're booked with tours months out and phone calls every day. We attribute most of this to Nido CRM and website. Thanks for the shout out. It's been streamlined. It has streamlined our enrollment process. We also have JCPS, Jefferson County Public School District, that has 100,000 students. So that's a huge district, and numerous problems. Families come to private schools to get out of JCPS. And yeah, you can definitely, usually Montessori schools are significantly smaller than the public schools in that area, which means you can be so much more on top of your parent community and you can build those personal relationships. And that's going to help with engagement as well, because in the public school system, parents are often just a number. There's so many children to keep track of. Whereas in our community, we have the opportunity to get to know people a little bit more personally than in such a big school district. So that helps. Any other thoughts, questions, ideas in terms of engagement? We also have our private forum on Thrive and our Facebook group on Thrive. So if you have any comments, questions, ideas that come to mind later, you can always ask in our Facebook group or in our private forum. It's a great space for conversation. If something just pops to mind, it's good to have those spaces. There's lots of great communities for us leaders.
Emil, is that where we would find the example of the parent commitment form?
On Montessori Thrive, you'll find I'll link that here. And then you could, for forum questions connecting with other school leaders, I recommend you as well join our Facebook group. Let me put the Montessori Thrive link, and then the Facebook group as well is here. And you can join here, and you can also ask around for resources, support, examples. Usually our community members are all really helpful because it's just school leaders in that group. But yeah, it helps to have a space. All right, we'll be back next week. We're going to focus on Google My Business for Montessori schools. So if you're looking to set this up, maybe you already have this set up. We'll talk through, how you can really utilize all the tools, because there's a lot of tools on Google My Business, and it's a free tool that any business can use and all Montessori schools should be utilizing. So we'll walk you through, how you can create a profile, how you can utilize it, why you should have it, what are the benefits, and how you can make the most of it, because ultimately it's going to help your school be more visible. So if you're, having trouble with the right parents finding your school, this can be a huge help. We'll also talk about how you can kind of get more reviews. All of this helps with credibility and visibility. So if that's something that interests you, we'll be touching on that next week. And again, we host these town halls every single Thursday from 1:30 to 2:30. Every week is a different topic. If you think of a topic that you would like, please let me know. I'll drop my email here because I love to receive ideas and requests for future town hall topics. So just shoot me an email and I'll see if I can organize a town hall based off what you guys need, because that's ultimately what we're here for. All right, I hope you all enjoy the rest of your Thursday. This recording will also be available on our Nido Marketing YouTube channel. So if you want to reference it or you want to come back to some of these ideas, you can find it there.
Camilla,
Mhm.
just one quick question here before we close the session. Those schools that are partners with Nido, can we assume that the Google My Business has been set up by them, or is something that I think we might have one, but I haven't really gone checked. Would that have been automatically set up through Nido or no?
No, not necessarily. When we bring on a new client now, I always check to make sure that it is configured, but and I'm sure yours is, Wally, but we don't typically do that automatically. So
I need to check to see if it is set up properly or not.
Yeah. It's just a really, like Camilla said, it's just it's kind of a no-brainer, because it gets you, it's really just a function that Google designed to help local businesses so that you show up higher than, the bigger organizations and things. So yeah, and we can check for you, Wally, too.
If you can just let me know, Camille, in case if you have a minute sometime, and let me know if there's anything missing there.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right.
All right, everyone, take care and have a great rest of your week.
Thank you, everyone.